and I don't get that. It's you decide to pass, you decide you want more money for something in the city, in the administrative end of the city. You go over to city power and say, we're hitting you up higher on so you're going to the people. You're going to the people and going from 5% to 7%, and you're taking it. They are businesses, and you're taking the money from there. It's the same thing. City light is a business on its own. Water is a business on its own, and the only way you can get money from them is to hit them up with a franchise fee. You have to do the same thing, and then you get to spend it any way you want to once you get it. So you can hit the people up for more money if you want more money through that fee.
But the assumption is that City Light can immediately pass that fee increase on to its citizens, its customers. And that's not a fair assumption. That's not true. That's the difference. If I'm in the city of Portland and I say PG or rating you 5 to 7, PG goes, okay, all the customers 5 to 7. If you guys say 5 to 7, City Light can't go customers 5 to 7. He doesn't say that.
Okay.
He can't say that.
That's right.
He cannot say that. He can say our costs have gone up, and then we need to talk about whether we can afford that, and then we have this very long rate setting process on whether an increase happens or not. That's the difference. And I think it's a very big difference. It's not automatic.
You kid yourself if you think it isn't going to be passed on.
Well, I mean, we've discussed this.
Mr. Monahan, would you agree that that's the difference? Because it's not automatically passed on, it makes it completely...
Well, I'm a little confused because I thought this resolution wasn't increasing a fee, that the 5%'s been in place. If the city were going to increase the fee charge to a consumer of utility fees, the electric company, from 5 to 7%, I think that would be an increase in fees that would require a vote.
Well, I guess the point we're at is there's no official documentation of a franchise fee. At least that's what I understand from. So even though it's been happening, it's never been established as an official policy.
Well, I think the conversation that Bernard was alluding to is a discussion last year with Andy. Is that right?
Mm-hmm.
So I didn't know this question was going to come up. So because I didn't see this as an increase. This is 5%. It was 5% last year.
Well,
it's not an increase.
It's not it's establishing a percentage is what it's doing. Or officiating, or whatever it is you want to call it. Because there's apparently no documentation.
There's a budget. That's what we've been using to set this fee.
But it has been set and it has been charged in the past.
Yes. It's not a new charge. It's been charged for, again, 25 plus years.
Without documentation, without.
The budget, that's your documentation.
But there's no
Which
ordinance.
frankly,
There's no ordinance that
There's
says.
no resolution, there's no ordinance, which was identified last year when we talked about this, and that's what we're trying to fix here. That's why we brought this resolution for you. What I wanted to add to, Mr. Mayor, is Mr. Monahan hadn't seen the legal analysis that Andy did on internal payments, but I'll just tell you that in Andy's analysis, an internal payment, if you increase that from 5 to 6%, it's not subject to voter approval per the charter amendment approved in November '08. That was his analysis. And I know you haven't looked at that.
No, but Andy's analysis is the one that I was using last meeting. Andy made the analysis that the city has relied on. He's the expert on the voter-approved initiatives. So I'm not here to qualify his question, particularly with lack of information.
And my argument isn't that it's going up or down. My argument is what it says. It's called an internal payment. And by being called an internal payment, it doesn't fall under the guidelines of what the voters paid on to try to control raises and costs to them, the city. So I'm looking at trying to get another name on it. I want fee, charge, whatever you want to put, tax, whatever you want to put on it. I want I want that name on it, so that it falls in that, in the guidelines of what the voters voted for and asked for. I don't want it to be something that can just be used to start jacking things up.
Okay. Here's another way to look at this on why this doesn't fit that charter amendment. When we bought the OEO card, we charged all the utilities. We did an internal payment transfer between city light, water, utility, all of them, to the general fund to buy that card. Now, that was an internal payment to purchase something that the city needed. I don't think that was, the intent was that's not a fee, that was an internal payment to address the cost. That's not subject to voter approval. I don't think anybody would say, oh no, that should have been subject to voter approval. That's not the purpose of the charter amendment. So, and it's the same, exact same transaction that's taking place between the utility funds and the general fund.
Well, I think you're looking at, I think you're trying to compare apples and oranges, frankly.
Gary.
I would raise the question, if the city council or the voters decided to call the internal payment a franchise fee, would that be legal under Oregon state law?
I don't know.
Okay, but that's an avenue you could take. You could just say, we are going to establish this as a fee and make it subject to the charter provisions. Unless it violates an ORS, and that solves the whole thing. Then you know where you stand. You either say it's a fee or you say it's not a fee. But bring it to a vote, make a decision, or let the voters do it. If there's a loophole in what we brought to the voters, we'll figure out how to fill the loophole.
Okay, well, is there gonna be further discussion? We
I
have a
just have one
motion.
more question for the
Okay.
attorney. So, I mean, the practice of collecting this from the utilities is enough evidence in itself to allow us to establish that. I guess I don't understand just because the money's been collected in the past, that validates passing a resolution to do it in the future. I mean, as far as if we couldn't pass this resolution because of the citizens' initiative, if there was an increase or whatever, you see what I'm getting at?
I understand.
Because just because it was being done doesn't necessarily mean it was being done properly. And if it wasn't being done properly, I don't see the reason for doing this now.
Well, I wonder the same thing. Do we have an opinion from Andy that says that the process that was done before was incorrect and had to be changed?
No.
Then I don't understand if there is an issue.
Yeah, exactly. If there is an issue, then there's an issue. If there's no issue at all, then why even bother doing it? That's kind of what I'm getting at. What's the driving force for us to pass this if it's not an issue?
Well, the driving force to pass it is have some kind of documentation that acknowledges what our internal payment rate is. That was the emphasis. And just for the record, again, Andy, and I can show you the emails, Andy did review this question, is this internal payment a fee? And he said, no. There's, from our legal review of this is not a fee, subject to, I didn't know if there's any.
Based on his knowledge that there was never any resolution or ordinance that established that.
Sure, he knew all.
Really?
Yes, we
Okay.
talked about that.